Here they are in store in Sainsbury's. Salient features of this pack are you've got good bright colours, you've got excellent communication, it's very easy to see what it is. Although we haven't got a window, which is the ideal, we still have a very good representation of the product inside. We started the business from nothing. It was, there were 4 of us, so first thing we did was make an amazing muesli. Having done that, got something that we were absolutely delighted with, then we had to put it in some kind of container. I really fell in love with packaging when I was lucky enough, having stalked them for 2 years, to do a job for Innocent Drinks on this, which is their kids' drink. And basically they came to me with a little white wedge. The reason they wanted to go into this wedge shape was because it was a particular size that allowed them to say, you know, this is a fruit portion. They needed to get this much into a wedge. So for all these reasons, I did some consumer focus groups with kids, 8-year-old kids in a living room bouncing around, and mums, talking about how this packaging could both have the health values that the mums needed in order to make them buy it in the supermarket, and also have the fun element that the kids needed, because this packaging was up against Robinson's Fruit Shoot, which was a hero product in the playground, because you can actually use it as a water pistol at break, which you can't do with a wedge. So we did these mad focus groups with the kids leaping around, and they spontaneously said, why don't you have jokes on the packaging? Why don't you have games for us? You can have games on the back for us, and you know, can there be all sorts of things? Could there be characters? So the kids brought the packaging to life in that focus group. So when you research packaging, you're not just researching what the food product or drink goes into. You're talking to people about how they're going to use it. You're talking to kids about how they interact with it. Does it have any play potential? You're talking to the mums about, is it the right thing for the mum to put in the lunchbox? Does it signify love? So all of these things come out of doing packaging research, and that's when I completely fell in love with what you can do with packaging for brands, particularly when they're small startups and they don't have budget for marketing. The packaging is your marketing. 2008, we did for us a major packaging review. Everybody felt we were absolutely missing a trick, where we picked a name that had a huge amount of energy, and we picked it deliberately. That was what we wanted, and it wasn't coming across at all in the sense of when you saw it on shelf, you didn't get that sense of energy and activity and life. So that was our challenge. We redid every single pack, introduced some new food. One of them actually came out particularly as a result of the friends and family sort of focus groups, where we discovered, to my delight, that I wasn't the only person in the world who had more than enough raisins for a lifetime. And we came out with the only raisin-free muesli, called No Flamin' Raisins. And again, that was part of the naming of the foods was part of the new energy. And instead of just calling it, we could have called it raisin-free muesli or something, but we wanted to get that sense of a little bit more upfront, a little bit more fun. The packaging challenges just go on and on. Every time we feel we've got the layout just about right, then there'll be a new product we want to make, or there'll be another one in the range, which means we've run out of colours, or we've run out of images, or we've run out of names, and each time it actually turns out to be something quite good because it makes us think again. So Camilla came to me with their existing organic product, which was fine for Waitrose, saying we need a different sort of packaging for Tesco. So what I did was I ran interviews in store in Tesco, in a typical big Tesco in New Malden. We had a mock-up of packaging that had some pack messages and was a particular size, and we asked people what their immediate impressions were of it. And what came back very strongly was that it was very small and very expensive at the price point that we put in. And a Tesco shopper has a very acute sense of price. So we were no longer looking at people who shop in Waitrose with a commitment to organic. We were trying to produce a product that was going to be relevant to the mass of the population. So we went back with different size boxes, and we realised very quickly that this had more status on the shelf because it was basically bigger. So it had to be perceived by consumers in terms that they were familiar with. So it had to have much more colour, and it needed to be much bigger in order to signal that it was at an acceptable price. And so we deliberately set out to make packaging that had impact and looked substantive, because in the cereal aisle, people, they do sleepwalk, even more so I think than some other categories, because you're so familiar with the brands. So you're just wandering along and you just go, right, cornflakes, Weetabix, flip, flip, flip. You're not giving it any thought at all. And so you have to both work with that convention and slightly disrupt it. So you have to shout. So the packaging had to do it all.
So we started with the tub and the 1 kilo bag, so the two different sizes. Tub is just not possible to do in any volume at all, because that was somebody filling it up with a scoop basically. And even if you had a machine which is dropping it in, you've got to stick this label on, you've got to stick that label on, you've got to stick that label on, and that label, and that label. The paper bag works brilliantly in a very small store, but it hasn't got longevity credentials because it's paper. Our bags, these are basically an inner bag from a cereal box. So environmentally brilliant, because you haven't got the box layer, except that number of issues. Firstly, that they fall over, and of course normally there's a box for the stuff to fall into, but because there's no box it just falls everywhere, and if they also fall over, they fall over everywhere, so customers hated them. If we look at the rice puffs, they went from the bag to the box, which I think has a completely different look. And when we did the new design, so we started off with this layout, which was a huge improvement. It has the image much stronger, it's got the sort of the echoes of the shape in the gable top on the box. But we were frustrated with the fact that on shelf, if you've got a shelf above this one, you actually lose all of this information. The other thing is that porridge is actually quite low down, so people were a little confused. So our next step, we brought porridge slightly higher and increased the font and readability there. We still had the problem with losing all the information on top. And then finally, we worked it out. The two important things were the brand and the food, and then the reassuring message, the credentials at the bottom, which is the no added salt and no refined sugars. So we've cleaned it up hugely. Once we did that, which I think took 2 years after the initial switch from the bag to the box, since then we haven't fiddled with it.